welcome. I'm Erin Van Horn. This is Katie and Kelly, and we're going to kind of drop into some introductions of ourselves because we've been working together for a while and we want to make a video so that our clients have the opportunity to meet each of us. I'm happy to go first if you ladies are comfortable.
Yeah, Erin, why don't we start with how did you find Z Health? What's been the most kind of life-changing thing for you so far, the thing that stood out that really drew you into Z Health? And
Totally. I'll give you a little background first, just so you know a little bit about my history, and then that'll make more sense of how I got into Z Health. I actually have been doing massage therapy, craniosacral therapy, and personal training for the last 17 years, and really 20 years because I was in school for massage therapy for 2 years. And so I've always been interested in learning. I always am trying to find solutions for my clients. I've done a lot of my own education outside of my certifications to learn about nutrition. I've kind of ventured through different nutrition styles and different therapy styles, and have a lot of continuing education certifications as well. And probably 8 years ago, I was exposed to Z Health when I was working out of a gym. I was preparing for an obstacle course race. I went to get a drink of water at a water fountain, stood up, had stabbing 7 out of 10 pain in my shoulder. I couldn't lift my shoulder past here. I threw every therapy possible that I knew at it, and nothing was working, including acupuncture, cold laser, chiropractic, e-stim. I even got homeopathic injections, massage, cranial work. None of it was changing the pain. And I was also getting ready for a kettlebell certification at the time. So there was a Z Health trainer at my gym who also did kettlebells, and I told him about my shoulder, and he had me walk around a little bit. And he was like, "Well, let me try something." And he had me stare at his finger for 15 seconds, and suddenly I had full range of motion in my shoulder without pain. And I was like, "Wait a minute, what just happened there?" Right? As a massage therapist, that made zero sense. And at the time, he didn't give me a great explanation. He basically just said, "Your brain controls everything, and your eyes are important to the brain. Let's go lift weights." I ended up increasing my strength over a 6 week period, doubling my strength over a 6 week period. And I had always been fascinated. I started getting certified about 5 years ago in 2017. And I've never looked back. It's been amazing. So that's kind of what really got me into Z Health. I think the thing that kept me fascinated with Z Health was not only the curriculum, but just the application with myself and my clients. Right before my certification, I had a bad car accident and concussion, and the just preparing for my certifications, I actually was able to get rid of my pain and manage my pain. And over time, with the nutrition stuff that we do, I also was able to heal my concussion symptoms and a lot of lifelong issues like depression, anxiety, cycle issues, things like that. So I'm a lifer. What can I say?
same,
How about
same.
you?
So I started with Z Health. I'll start too with the pre-story of all of it. I was diagnosed with a condition called CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, or some of you may know it as RSD. So I was diagnosed after a hand surgery at 25. I woke up from the surgery and didn't feel quite right. And then it was pretty obvious that something was very wrong as I continued to recover from that surgery, where I just never got full use of my arm back. Like I literally couldn't move it at all for, I think it was 3 days after surgery. So I'd have to like pick it up and set it places or keep it in a sling because it just didn't do anything. And it was just a simple hand surgery. Um, and so it took about 6 months. And at that point, I was having really serious pain. The pain was never consistent. So it wasn't like muscle aches. It was muscle aches, or it would feel like paper cuts, or like someone was stabbing me, or there was a horse stepping on my hand. It would have all these weird symptoms that just didn't seem to really make sense. And all the tests were coming back normal. My thumb, which was what they did surgery on, was actually great. That recovered really quickly, but everything else just sucked. And I would stop sleeping. They had me on so many medications that I sometimes don't remember driving to work, or didn't remember driving to work. And that was pretty scary. And I realized, well, these medications might help someday, but they're not helping now. And I need to still work. But I would go back days at a time without getting out of bed, which is pretty serious for me. Um, So it took about 6 months and I got the diagnosis of CRPS, and the doctors basically said, listen, we can try to manage symptoms, but that's about all we can do. There is no cure for this. You have it for life. This is your life now. Whoops, sorry, was basically what I was told. So I did all the things, just like Erin said, massage, chiropractic, acupuncture, a lot of different methods that just some helped a little bit, but nothing really helped enough to get me back to the life that I was used to. So that started off a year of infusion treatments at the hospital. So every Friday night was date night in the hospital where I'd go in for 3 to 4 hours, get lidocaine infusions. That kind of took a hit too. It's not very fun if you've ever gone through that or about to go through it. It can be taxing. Your body always responds in a different way and you never really know what to expect. And then I had another concussion. So I've had roughly 8 to 10 concussions, somewhere in that range, guessing. And I had my last one that I've had. Yeah, I haven't had one since, at 26, so about a year and a half after I was diagnosed with CRPS. And then I started to deal with a lot of the suicidal ideation, hunger issues. I just wasn't hungry at all. And I was struggling with a lot of headaches and pain from that concussion on top of the CRPS. So I found a trainer locally that was meant to help with the concussion. And then he's like, well, can we just go after the CRPS after we've healed the concussion? I was like, that's really ballsy. Who says that? Who thinks they can just heal the concussion that quickly? This is like, again, we're talking 8, 9, 10 concussions at this point. I don't know, but hey, if this guy thinks he can do it, sure. I was feeling better in 2 weeks. I was not symptom free. It took years to make a full recovery, but in 2 weeks, I was like actually experiencing moments of no pain, which I hadn't had in 18 or 20 months. So that was pretty big. That was pretty big. It makes me want to cry just talking about it. So fast forward a couple of months, I quit my big girl job. And after a session one day, I just had this moment of clarity that like, I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying this. There has to be more to life than doing this. So I quit that day. I never went back. I never really gave an excuse. I just dropped everything off late at night and disappeared. And then started taking Z Health courses a couple weeks later. And again, never looked back. I'm now fully recovered. I still have some lingering issues from concussions, but again, when you've had 8 to 10 concussions, that's pretty normal. And it's just not even high priority anymore for me to fix because I feel so good in other ways that not a concern anymore. So yeah, Erin just finished her master practitioner license a couple months ago. I'm about to finish mine and I love it. I get to help other people avoid or get out of the situation that I was in. And just like Erin and Kelly, I see people across the country, across the world. Like I've seen some people in Europe and Asia, and that's really awesome to be able to help people so far away. Not everyone experiences as quick of a response as like the really fun ones. But it's still so rewarding to have people even come in with like plantar fasciitis, right? And walk out after 2 years of pain-free. Those days are the ones that like just really get to me. And I'm still kind of leery. I'm like, did I really help with that? Did they really have pain for 2 years? You start to question it. But it's really a rewarding feeling. And it just makes me want to do this even more. Kelly, what about you?
Well, yeah, my name is Kelly Reed Dalton, and I have, I know I started on this whole journey of my own self-healing when I was a teenager. I had chronic pain. So yeah, pain is a good motivator. And as a teenager, I thought it was normal. Like my family was in pain and other kids at school, that was kind of a thing. Like you injure yourself and then you get a lot of sympathy for it. And so there was a whole like culture around that.
Yeah.
And so I lived with it until college, and then it kind of avalanched into a bunch of other symptoms. And I started on the alternative therapies protocol. And because, of course, I had gone into several different doctors, there were other things that came up in my health history, like, oh, why did I test positive for hepatitis C? And no doctor could give me any answers on whether my liver was going to be okay the rest of my life or not. And, diabetes in my family, why did I have these certain proclivities and these ups and downs in my blood sugar? And there were never any answers that came from the medical world for me. I would go in and have a conversation about my pain or about other symptoms I was having, and I never felt like anyone was able to get to the root of the issue. I wasn't satisfied. So I ended up going into college as a medical pre-med student thinking, I will change everything and let's make this right. And found out that it wasn't going to be a world that I could exist in. It didn't have all of the foundation that I believe goes into a healthy human body. And so that took me on a new path towards a lot of, there's a certain world of like a permaculture side of things to me, which is about watching, noticing, observing the way that natural patterns happen on the planet. And human beings are part of those natural patterns. And within any one human being, there are those natural patterns as well. And when we find out the things that are missing in those natural patterns, we can create that balance and that homeostasis that brings about greater health. So I started learning about it from the aspect of, a biology and a life sciences background. And it took me down a whole path until I had children. And when I became pregnant, I wasn't really in that much pain. Hormones are doing its own thing. But after they were born, I started to physically really, really dissolve. And all of the things that I hadn't tended to beforehand were now coming to pass, and I couldn't ignore them. I had little tiny kids, they needed me, and I couldn't walk at times. It was very hard to get up and move around. I was always in pain. I had other health symptoms that always came up, and everything from like my teeth falling apart and my heart palpitating and my bladder not feeling right. And they all were symptoms of these larger needs in my body that took me down the gyrotonic path. So I began first, after exploring some of the other alternative health like acupuncture and massage therapy, I got my license in the gyrotonic expansion system. And so what that is, essentially, Julio Horvath developed a system of movement that is fluid. It moves all of the neurosatellites. So even though he was doing this in the 1970s, before we had a lot of neuroscience to back it up, these patterns that have come from human experience throughout centuries, they came from ancient yoga, ancient martial arts, all of the ways that we knew to heal and to have people move better. He studied these things and put them together in a package that allows for you to move in a rhythm that's kind of like your heartbeat. It also involves your breath, and how you breathe is integral to your movement. It involves a lot of visual work. Your eyes are connected to all of the things that you do. And it also is very vestibular. And so every time you move your spine, your head moves, and a certain way of creating that inner compass is a skill that can be developed. So he put together these, because he was also injured and he needed to heal himself, he created these pieces of equipment like the one behind me over there, and a few others. There are 5 different pieces of gyrotonic equipment that allow us to feel like we are suspended in the ethers. It's a lot like being in the water, because you are supported by a weight system, and you get free range of motion, 3-dimensional, very organic. Everything can move into spiraling and circles, which are very complex. And we know these are very good for stimulating different parts of the brain. So he developed this, and the only place that I could get comfortable in my 20s was in the water. And I started to see a water an integration therapist who said to me that I could keep coming. She would be happy to take care of me in the water as long as I wanted. But if I really wanted to fix things, I should do gyrotonic. And so that began my whole really getting to the root of my problems. But it wasn't until I had been a gyrotonic instructor for, let's see, about 8 years that I met a gyrotonic instructor who was also Z Health trained. And she was doing a workshop with me. She had me focusing on, she had a brilliant way of explaining a lot of the different physical movements and how to connect neurologically. But we were doing some ankle work, something very, very basic and simple. And I was using a foam roller, and she said, okay, now you're going to do this and you're going to do this. Now close your eyes and let's try this. Now here, use your eyes and let's do this. And all of a sudden I started to bawl. I started to cry and cry. And I realized that what I had broken open was a wound in my ankle that I had had since I was probably, I think I was 12, and I was trying to ice skate. And I had fallen and I had severely twisted I had very unstable ankles, and I twisted my ankle in my ice skates, and I wasn't able to have my birthday party at the ice skating rink like I had planned. And so there were these layers of trauma that had lived inside my ankle. And all of a sudden, the stuff that she had me do just revealed it all right there on the floor out in the open. And it was a very big eye-opening experience that afterwards, what I was able to do with my ankle and the way it made my body feel overall, that was so intriguing to me. I really thought that this was now going to it opened up so many more specific doors. And so that's when about 4 years ago, I started on my Z Health specific training. And I have just totally, it's just so amazing to use it on myself. And then it's really fun to have some party tricks, get to go and show people how to do little things. And oh my God, what did you do? How did you make that happen? And I think that that's really neat to show people very quickly and easily what the capacity of their brain is, that you don't have to feel like you are, a body magician, like somebody dancing in Cirque du Soleil, in order to do some really awesome, amazing things. And like Erin and Katie, I love being able to open those doors for other people, to show them what they are capable of doing to lower their pain or lower their other symptoms, and to really lead a much more fulfilling and satisfying and happy life for a long time. We want to stay healthy so that we have that health to enjoy our bodies and our time on earth with our families and our friends. And Z Health and Gyrotonic are totally giving me that. My laundry list is pretty long and sorted, and all of my symptoms, thanks to all the good support that I've had, have been diminishing. So that one of my other success stories I'll throw out there is that I started in early menopause in my early 40s, really before it is normal at all. And after working with Katie right here, I've been able to get my period back once a month. I would not consider myself really perimenopausal. I'm certainly not menopausal. I don't know how long that's going to last, but to get my period back and to feel like I was just stronger because of that balancing, that lowering of that internal stress, has been huge. And those are things that I could not get answers from anywhere else. So I'm really happy and excited to be here with these two amazing trainers, and being able to go forth and share the fun that we have in the Z Health world.
That's so awesome, Kelly.
That's
You brought up, both of you guys brought up a lot of good things. I think what is crucial, if you don't know what Z Health is, and if you don't know what pro-metabolic nutrition focus is, it's really just a holistic way to look at a person. We're looking at the complete neuroanatomy in relationship to all the different systems. If you think about your cardiovascular system, it's also your neurocardiovascular system. If you're thinking about your lymphatic, it's also your neurolymphatic. So the important piece to take away is that your tissues and your nervous system are all essentially going back to brain processing and interpretation, and then creating outputs, right? So everything is connected on the neurological level. And then we break it down further and we start to look at the chemistry and like the actual health of the cell, right? And we look at cellular respiration and metabolism and the total sum of chemical processes that are happening in our body. And what's beautiful, I think, about this foundation for us is that we really do get to help people with all kinds of stuff. I talked about pain and strength and concussion like recovery for me, but there's so many things that have improved, like my ability to retain information, my ability to read faster, my ability to learn music more quickly when I'm playing my guitar. Um, Essentially, all these different areas of my life have improved at a performance level that I wasn't even using as a targeted goal when I was focusing on this stuff. So things that fix issues that might be causing dissatisfying symptoms like fatigue or brain fog or memory issues or depression or anxiety or whatever's going on, also a pain, headaches, that kind of stuff, also has the flip side of it that like the more we use it, the better we get, right? Both on the metabolic side and on the neurological side. And I think for me that is beautiful. Like we really get to help people in a holistic way, um, that is very separate from any other style of learning that I've ever been able to access before.
It's
So
definitely not what I expected when I got pointed in the direction of this trainer of like, I'm just going for concussion symptoms. I was just going so that I could turn the light on in my office and not want to cry. And you're right. Yep. Periods are easier. I've never had easier periods in my life. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't want to have my period monthly, why would I want that? There is such a joy when your body is working well of like getting your period and it not being a big deal. You're actually stronger during your period, which is super cool. So if you can line up your cycles, if you are a competition weightlifter or strongman or anything in that area, you're actually stronger at that time. So you can use it to your advantage, which is cool. And it shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't have all these things that we've associated so negatively with having a period, cravings, bloating, diarrhea, sleeplessness, heavy bleeding, all that kind of stuff, where like if things are working well, that starts to go away and it starts to get easy and almost kind of nice to have. Um,
well,
I feel better during my period now than I have during my entire life. And I'm one that used to have to stay home from school because it was so horrible that I couldn't even go to school for a couple days during it. And yeah, now I kind of enjoy when it comes. It's like clockwork. I feel better. I sleep great. Um, I certainly do things a little bit differently during that week, but it's not a big deal anymore. Um, and I thought, again, I'm just coming into Z Health to fix my chronic pain, my arm pain. It's here. It's only here. It's not in the rest of me. And my gosh, the rest of me feels so much better. I sleep so hard and so well, and I wake refreshed, and ready to take on the day. And just like, I don't know about the two of you, but my resiliency in the face of a lot of stuff that's happened in the last several years, in the last year, not just to me personally, but to us as a world, I feel a lot more resilient and able to take that on. And that's one of those side effects of Z Health and pro metabolic eating that I never ever expected going in. That's pretty cool to like come out the other side and be like, yeah, my body can handle this now. Awesome.
Totally.
yeah, the resilience stuff is key. I mean, even if you have a history of depression or anxiety, or if you're walking through healing from trauma or PTSD, or maybe you have current traumas happening in your life, I think a lot of us are unaware of the impact of even just going through a pandemic by itself could have on our mental health and our ability to pay attention and process information and move well. Um, for men, libido issues and erectile function, I mean, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there's so many of our male clients and male colleagues who've seen massive benefits just by healing their metabolism and their nervous system and getting into a place where their nervous system can actually relax, enough to where they can, their body's ready to procreate and be excited about that. So there's so many really cool things. I think sleep is another piece that we talk about a lot. I mean, we really even dive into like well-being and like the benefits of community and play, because biologically we're wired. got a really cool Facebook group. If you're not a part of it, we'd love for you to come join us. It's the NeuroTrain online community on Facebook. And we have a link here in the newsletter for you to join up if you'd like to do that. But
If you're
I think
watching
that
this elsewhere, all three of us, we teach weekly, daily classes. So 5 days a week, one of us is teaching either one class or two classes. So you've got some options on ways to join. They're group online classes, they're small groups. We usually have less than 8 people, so you'll get some individual attention in those classes as well. But we try to have a range of scheduling too, so that you've got something to choose from whatever time zone you are in.
and it's important to know that if you have specific things going on, you may need some individual care, and that's okay. And as Katie and Kelly and we all work with people all over the world and on Zoom, which is really cool. If you happen to be in one of our local states and cities, you could probably see one of us in person, which would be great. But it's pretty miraculous what we can do on camera. I mean, I work with everything from Parkinson's to crazy ADHD, dyslexia, interstitial swelling. I mean, all kinds of stuff. We kind of get the people that have tried everything and nothing's worked at times. And what's beautiful is we actually have solutions to help those people. So, is there anything else that you ladies want to add into this?
I don't think so. I'm just so glad you guys all stuck around and watched all of these. We hope to see you soon, either individually or in one of our classes, or we also run a 12-week group challenge too that I went into with a lot of doubts, and now I'll be going into my 4th challenge soon, and I'm a lifer. I'm in it. It's really
Cool. And
helpful.
that's an entire course on the neurology behind habit change, because everything that kind of shapes how we go through our day ultimately goes into how our habits are set up and our natural kind of unconscious decisions that we're making, and then how do we actually make the unconscious conscious so we can make the shifts that we want to get to where we want to go. So keep your eyes open for the next challenge and when it starts.
And let us know if you have questions.
Yeah, sounds good.
Don't delay.